All right, we're back. It's Wednesday night, and we are on ETF Eve, if you can believe it. Canary Capital is very confident, and the SEC too, that we're going to see an XRP ETF, spot ETF, not just any ETF, spot ETF, tomorrow on 11/13, 2 years, eerily, after the fake BlackRock filing in Delaware for their iShares XRP ETF trust. That was fake, by the way, for sure fake. I don't think it was so fake. The people that have to notarize that document to get that trust filed, I don't know. You're not fooling me. But it was, just almost exactly. It was exactly 2 years ago on 11/13 when that came out publicly, and we saw XRP's price double in the matter of 30 minutes because of that news and information that came out onto the market. It decoupled from everything else, including XLM, which they normally kind of run in tandem together, and it broke away from that even. So there's a reason I only hold XRP, aside from a couple grand in hash token that I've completely disclosed to you guys that I have. And this is probably a good time to just go ahead and get this out of the way. Nothing here is financial advice. It's only for entertainment and educational purposes only. Okay, this thing's been weird. Only for entertainment and educational purposes only. You should always consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. And the opinions stated here are my own opinions. They are not the opinions of Digital Ascension Group or Digital Wealth Partners, which is the SEC registered RIA, where we actually do provide financial advice for people. So now that that's out of the way, we can get into the fun stuff. I am concerned. I am really concerned that things are going to move very quickly from here, and we are doing our best to tool up our team and make sure that our systems and processes are in place to be able to accommodate large numbers of people that want to come work with us and hold their assets in Anchorage and start generating returns on their XRP in the very near future. But I'm highly concerned that things are going to start to move very quickly as soon as we see the ETF filings. And there's some rumblings in the background that BlackRock might step out of the shadows here. Like I mentioned before, they did file that trust there in Delaware, which was investigated by the DOJ and swept under the rug. And nobody's heard anything about that in 2 years after the big stink immediately after. And Joe says, what's the percent on returns with your company? It depends on the product. And we don't have any guarantees, Joe. This is, these are investment products. They're the only actual funds that you can participate in here in the US with your XRP that are legally structured the right way. We are targeting, because I can't give guarantees, my wonderful wife. Thank you for the tea. Ooh, I need that. Thank you. Sinuses, Hopefully you guys are starting to enjoy the holiday season. I had a peppermint mocha coffee today. My basic B season is here. Anyway, hopefully you're enjoying the holidays. Back to the question though. So targeting somewhere between 6 and 15% a year on the funds, and we are right on track for that. The income fund is paid out about 5% this year, and the growth fund is a little bit less than that over 2 quarters. So I know there's some people that have participated in less of the time or different opportunities that we have there at Digital Wealth Partners, but the funds that I can speak about publicly and the opportunities I can talk about publicly have performed on target with that. So if you want to learn more about that, if you have more than 50,000 XRP, if you got your assets structured in an LLC and you want to work with Digital Wealth Partners, all you got to do is go over there to digitalwealthpartners.net and pick a time with one of our advisors, and they can talk to you about the opportunities that we have. And we should be rolling out some new opportunities here in the near future. But if we see some price appreciation on XRP, well, I think there's going to be a lot more people that are accredited and qualify for the opportunities that we have. Because that is the other stipulation. You do have to be accredited in order to be able to participate in the opportunities there at Digital Wealth Partners. Not the way I want to do it. It is literally the compliance and the regulation here in the U.S. and all the red tape that we have to deal with that requires that. So, don't shoot the messenger. Go talk to the SEC about the test for accreditation. I think there's a lot of people here that have been here for a while. If you've been in the industry for 2 years in the UK, you qualify as a sophisticated investor there, which is very similar to accredited here. And you are able to participate in private investments and other opportunities that might be higher risk to the average person because you have the expertise and understanding of the industry if you've been participating for at least 2 years. So there's a lot of people that I think would qualify for that here domestically. And I wish that we had some better guidelines around that. I do think that the SEC, now that we have Paul in there, is going to be a bit more progressive on this stuff through the rest of Trump's term. So excited about that. But big week here to close out the week. Tomorrow is a Thursday. Ripple does love Thursdays. So hopefully we get some news. Excited about things moving again here at the end of the year, like I've been talking about the entire time. We've got so many people out there taking words out of my mouth and using it to stir up some buzz, which, hey, I'll take it. That's fine. I wish they would put all of the context included, that I always qualify things, but you know how people are. They only hear price and time frame, and then that's the headline. So that's okay. Is what it is. You can't make sure everybody's listening. All I can do is come on here, answer questions, which you guys ask wonderful questions every Monday and Wednesday night, and try to be as thorough in those as I can. And hopefully, people do take the context for the answers forward. And don't just spit out numbers and timeframes that are not exactly accurate based on what I said. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the questions. Again, appreciate you guys taking time out on your Wednesday night to come hang out with me. We'll run it down for about 2 hours here in the Super Chats on YouTube and over here on TikTok, X, and Facebook. Good to see you guys too. We'll go ahead and jump into it here. This person's asked, I have a friend that has about 1,750 XRP and has a plan that starts at the $1,000. I say he's being too euphoric. Am I wrong? Asking for a friend, of course. No, I don't think you're being too euphoric at all. Again, kind of going back to what I was just talking about, these price points that I've been discussing for the last year and here explicitly, toward the end of 2025 and into early 2026, are predicated on certain catalysts taking place. We need the reverse carry trade to unwind. We need stablecoin adoption at scale. We need the back end of the stock market to start settling instantly. We need these ETFs to drive a bunch of liquidity into XRP. We need exchanges to have huge amounts of demand for XRP because liquidity is dried up there because Tether has problems. There's all of these things that are dominoes in my domino theory that I've put out 18 months ago and have been talking about since then and iterating on top of and continue to double down on because I continue to get validation from certain key individuals and people that I speak with on an infrequent basis that state that they believe it's accurate. People that would know. So, had a conversation today that was very interesting that I can't talk about. Again, I wish I could tell you guys all the stuff. Anyway, yes, I think you're just fine in your price prediction. I don't think you're being too euphoric. I think that that's even not too distant in the future that price point will be reached. But I don't know why you would sell. If it's $1,000, you have $1.75 million at that point. It's really not going to be it's life-changing money. Okay, so I don't want to like downplay or poo-poo that amount of money. That's a lot of money for a lot of people, and it is life-changing, right? Like you can work because you want to, and you don't have to. At least for a period of time. It's not enough to retire on. Now, if you were earning 5% a year, let's call it 2 million. We'll just go ahead and round it up a little bit. Let's say it gets over a little more than $1,000 at the amount that you have. Now let's say you're earning 5%. So what is that? It's $80,000 a year. Is that right? That's not right. 2 million, 5%. I'm going to use the calculator because my brain's not working. It's late. 2 million times 0.5. $100,000 a year. Okay. Thank you. All right. So 100 grand a year. It depends on where you live in the country. That might be enough for you to get by and be okay. It might be enough that you just have to work part-time. Again, it might be enough that you could just step back from your job and decide to, pursue a different career. That's how I would look at it. I wouldn't start liquidating that. You're going to have huge tax implications that you're going to owe. And if you're selling the asset itself, it's not going to continue to go up in value over the long term. You're going to lose the upside there. And you're also selling something that could be generating you cash returns. Like why wouldn't you just use the cash returns to live off of that, not touch the principal? Or you could borrow against it. Borrowing against it, a portion of it, I wouldn't borrow against all of it, but a portion of it, and then using a portion of it to be able to service the debt with the income off of that is another way that you could do it to be able to hold on to it for the appreciation, get more of a lump sum out in the short term if you wanted to buy a home or do something else. But I wouldn't even do that. Again, I would buy assets. I would buy a car wash. I would buy, a laundromat. There are tons of baby boomers aging out of the workforce that own boring businesses that you can roll up. There's tons of them. And they have run them their whole life. Their kids don't want to run them, and they are willing to sell them at reasonable prices, and often stay on for an earnout to be able to transition that to somebody else so that they could step into the business. Ben Kelly, if you guys don't know who Ben Kelly is, highly recommend you go check him out. He runs Acquisition Ace. He's acquired 7 businesses in the last 4 years now, I believe, and makes about $1.3 million a year working 30 hours a week, all through SBA loans and creative financing. There's lots of ways to, like I said this, I don't remember, I think we were in the town hall the other day in the mastermind. I said, money does grow on trees. They print it. It is abundant. There's way more than enough for everybody. I promise you. My parents told me that money was scarce and didn't grow on trees and you had to work hard and all this other stuff. Simply not true. I've seen people that are, I don't know. Again, I don't like to talk bad about people that I think maybe aren't quite as bright as some other people become extremely wealthy. So intelligence is obviously not the thing. I've seen also very lazy people become very wealthy. And it's not because, they didn't work hard for a period of time. There was hard work to be involved, but leverage, like they had some type of leverage. They had an idea, they had charisma, they had something that they leveraged in order to be able to build a business or take advantage of an opportunity. And you're doing that now, right? Like you found XRP, you don't have that much money, you're able to squirrel some away and make some investments. And then on the other side of that, there's 4 types of leverage. You have code. So people write code one time and you can sell it in perpetuity. Now there's some upkeep on that, but something you do one time and you earn in perpetuity off of it, that's what we're calling leverage. Okay. So you're making one investment or dollar cost averaging into XRP and it goes up in value. You only need to do that one time and you're able to live off of it for forever because it'll produce income for you, or you can borrow against it. Capital. So code, capital, everybody knows those two. Community, which I call, labor, other people working on your behalf, or working with you to accomplish something. And then last but not least is content. So you guys see me come on here, I shoot this video. I don't do any shorts. They literally come in here and like chop these up and on my team is wonderful. And they come up here and chop this video up and make the shorts every single week. I shoot 2 lives a week, and we're able to repurpose a ton of this content. Again, something you do one time that you can use multiple times over and over again. That's what leverage is, and that's how people make a lot of money. And if you can involve all 4 of those things, code, capital, collaboration, or labor, and content in the same type of business, now you're getting to like the $1 trillion crazy large businesses that you see today, because they're using all those different types of leverage all together. And that's not my philosophy. You got Dan Martell that talks about that. You got Naval Ravikant. You've got Alex Hormozi, all these guys that are brilliant business people that I watch on a regular basis, that I really don't even come on here and talk about. I should probably do that more. I should probably come on here and talk about, you know, some of the self-development stuff that I do instead of the crypto stuff. But I'm squirreling hard tonight. We're going way off track here. We'll go ahead and run on to the next one. Thank you for the super chat. We've got Off the Grid Hero. He says, advice for workers that will get 10 million plus, hold off quitting until everything paid off and bought and structured, LLC trust, then business, then assets. I think everybody's in a different place. I would recommend holding on to your job, continuing to live your life as you do, and getting used to having that type of money. Because that is FU money. $10 million is FU money. $10 million is, I don't have to work if I don't want to. So being able to go into work, like, and having that leverage, again, capital is leverage. There's a lot of satisfaction in that. And not to say be lazy doing what you're doing. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So you can come in really excited to continue to work and push hard. But at the same time, like, you don't have to. And at any point you could walk away. Now, I'm not saying to fly off the handle and tell your boss to shove it and just walk out and make a scene, even though a lot of you, I'm sure, do want to do that. I hope you don't work somewhere like that where you hate what you do. There's been 2 times in my life where I've woken up with like a knot in the pit of my stomach about going to work. And both of those times I lasted 1 more day. That's all I could do it. I cannot, if I do not want to be somewhere, I will not be there. And I can put it out, I can deal with it for like 1 day. Just enough to like go in and like make it right and say, hey, I'm not going to be here anymore. This isn't working for me. I'm out of here. I don't know how people do that like for years on end. Both of those have been big pivotal moments in my life too, which have actually helped me, you know, move on to the next thing. So if you're in that spot and you know, make a bunch of money, you're probably going to quit, because like, I just can't imagine going to work feeling that way every day. Like I'm going to puke when I wake up, but some people do it. So in that situation, I would probably just go ahead and walk. But if you don't mind your job and it's okay, I would take that time to get comfortable with the money and put things in place, make sure that you have cash flow coming off of the assets to be able to at least cover your bills and other things that you have going on, and your obligations before you do decide to just, you know, put the 2 weeks in. And I would still put the 2 weeks in. You know, a lot of people will just quit and walk out. You never know what relationships or bridges you're burning. You never know who might be important in your life later on for some reason. And you know, you want to try to leave things in a good place. They don't have to be perfect, but you know, people respect people that do that. I'll tell you that. There's a job that I got later on. I went back to the same company because I did afford them that. I said, hey, look, you know, I'm out of here. I'm going to take this other opportunity, but I don't want to burn you guys. I'm going to give you my 2 weeks. And some companies will say, that's fine. You can leave today, you know, but some of them are like, we're in a bad spot without you. Yeah, we would really appreciate if you will stick around. So, you know, I think it's good to do it that way. I think that there's some grace in that, and people are, you know, there's just some reciprocity and some respect that's earned in that situation, and that might be valuable later when you go on to the next endeavor, whatever that might be. This person says 2 days. Today, today. Again, to each their own. I would go on, if you do think that you're going to have some visceral reactions to price appreciation, and some of those may not be, you don't know what's in your best interest, right? Like, you've never been super wealthy before. Alux has a really good video on things you should do if you win the lottery. First 2 things you should do is call your attorney, call your wealth manager and CPA, and then your spouse. Whatever order you want to do that in, those are the first 3 calls. And then you keep your mouth shut. Do not tell anyone that you've made any money for a while. Okay? No family, no friends, nobody except those 3 people. Your wealth manager, your CPA, and those could be different people, your attorney, and your spouse. That's it. This says wife changing money. Jesus. Hopefully not. You know, and I'll touch on that. We'll go back to the other things, you know, in the Alux video. And again, you can go watch it on YouTube. And there's lots of other videos on what you should do in order to prevent bankruptcy if you win the lottery. Highly recommend you go watch those things. But the wife changing money thing. If you're married, you know, you hear the term, it's cheaper to keep her. I'm not going down that route, but that is true. If somebody was riding with you in the rough times, even if they were doing it begrudgingly, they were there. And they are there to help you and love you and be with you. And you should probably honor that person and stick it out with them, because you don't know what the next person's intents are. And there will be people that have malicious intent. Now, let's say you're in a bad relationship and you want a way out. I can understand that too. Have some thoughts around that, but to each their own, you know. Most of the time, wherever you're at in your relationship is often a reflection of how you're acting in the relationship. I've come to realize that, and some of the stuff that I've gone through, I'm not perfect. But post price appreciation, you should tell your spouse what's going on. And you guys should agree on what you're going to do. Your spouse may be excited and tell you to sell it all. I would have a continued conversation with them as to why that's not a good choice, with the tax implications and how many people go broke that are lottery winners, and how this is a very similar situation. They maybe should watch the video with you on how not to go broke. So kind of getting back to that, right? Again, I would highly reconsider just divorcing your spouse immediately post price appreciation. If they've been here and been a ride or die, I think you should probably keep them. So again, if you're new to wealth and you really haven't figured this out yet, and you really like, maybe this is the first time you're seeing me, this isn't something that you've had even in a thought in your mind. Like, you've got, you know, 50 or 100,000 XRP, maybe you got more than that, and you're like, it might go to $5, and you wake up and it's 50 or $100. It's a really different feeling. And that's a lot more money than you had planned to make, which, right, champagne problems, that's awesome. But if you haven't really thought through what that looks like and how to protect that wealth and how to grow it and preserve it over the long term, or what legacy you want to leave, it's probably going to take you 6 months to really codify that in your mind. So hopefully you've been using this time while we've had some sideways price action in the market to go through those scenarios, daydream a little bit, work through that. This person says, "Mo money, mo problems." It is true. And you're like, "Oh, I wish I had those problems." Believe me, like we all do, but at the same time, they are still legitimate problems, and you will have to deal with those if you come into large amounts of money. And if you don't know how to deal with them, and if you don't have the professionals to be able to help you, you will likely go bankrupt in 3 to 5 years. That's why 75% of lottery winners go bankrupt in 3 to 5 years. So again, I would encourage you to go watch those videos. There's a lot of good practices in there, but you know, keep it close to the vest. Don't be telling everybody. We've talked about the family board and financial committee play before, but I'll touch on that again. I gave that in a speech last weekend at Laughlin's deal because there was a lady that asked about, people coming to ask for favors or money. The way that I mitigate that in a respectful way is that I put a family board in place that has some outside family members. You know who your brothers and sisters are, good people, confidants, advisors, mentors to you that can be on that board that help you make good decisions. And then you have a financial committee that does the due diligence on the deals, and they have, a lane of the types of investments that the family should make, and then the minimums or the maximums that they can invest without going to the board. And so if you have a family member or a friend that comes to you with a business idea or asks for money, you can say, "Yes, we would love to do that. If you would just put a pro forma together and a business plan and pitch deck, and then give that to our financial committee," which Digital Wealth Partners can be your financial committee. They will look over it. If it meets our specifications on what we're able to invest in or provide money to for a loan, then they will, they would love to make that investment or that loan to you. Most people aren't going to have any of those things. They're not going to even bring them. And if they do bring them, sometimes they're really crappy and they just, half-assed it. And it's not good enough. And then the financial committee is the bad guy and it's not you. Or it actually ends up being a really good opportunity. And it gets vetted and you give them the money and you guys both bank a bunch of money together. That's an infrequent one, but it's occasional. So, but they can't get mad at you. You didn't tell them no. You said, "We would love to. It's just got to meet this system and process and criteria that we have in place." And that way, you actually have a system for how this is going to work. So hopefully, you guys have thought through some of these things and put a few of them in place before we get to the big show here at the end of the year. We got Honest Aim, my man. He says, "Mr. Legacy, how are you, sir?" He says, "Hi to the tea lady." She says, "Hi back. Appreciate you. It's good to see you last weekend, you and the wife. With all the talk on the ETFs and price appreciation, please do us all a favor and remind us what we should and should not do after price appreciation so we don't go broke. Blessings. Thanks for all that you do." So I was kind of harping on that before, but I'll reiterate it again. We didn't talk about assets and liabilities. Wealthy people do not sell assets. They borrow against them. They structure them in their estate. They pass them down to their children, their beneficiaries. They utilize life insurance and trusts and other things to be able to remove creditor risk and probate and mitigate taxes, because taxes are the largest expense that you're going to have in your lifetime. Especially here in the US or the UK or Australia, most of the places that people are watching this from. So want to make sure that you have good, partners and professionals around you to help you protect this stuff. And then in addition to that, you want to know the difference between assets and liabilities. Liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket every month. If it takes money out of your pocket every month and does not put money back in more than what it took out, it is a liability. Your house that you live in, liability, not an asset. Your car that you drive, liability, not an asset. If you use it and it does not put money in your pocket, it is a liability. You can use assets to fund your liabilities. Okay. So this is where I talk about taking some of the money, whether that's profits because you took profits and sold, or you borrowed against it at a low interest rate, and you can buy. If you want the Lambo, I want you to have the Lambo. Lease the Lambo. And you know how you're going to lease the Lambo? You're going to go buy a car wash. Okay. A car wash, if it's a $500,000 car wash, you're putting $100,000 down. It says my wife is a liability. Golly. That's not true. Your wife is an asset, sir. She enables you to go out and do big things and make money while she is taking care of the household. Hopefully, I don't know your situation. This person says not mine. Sorry, man. So back to the assets and liabilities. If you want the Lambo, I want you to have the Lambo. Buy the car wash first. Get some cash flow off the car wash. Owner finance it, use an SBA loan, have a down payment from a loan against your XRP or your other assets, whatever you have for crypto, and then get the cash flow off of that. And that's what you can use to lease the Lambo. Okay. That's the way I would do it. And then you write off the Lambo because you're using it to go to do business, and a lease you can write off very easily. If you buy the Lambo, you're going to have a hard time writing that one off. It's not going to look good when you try to write that one off. So that would be my suggestion. I would get a nice truck, something larger, under Section 179 of the tax code, and you can use bonus depreciation or accelerated depreciation in writing that off. This person says 6,500 pounds. I think it may be 6,500 now. It used to be 6,000. But yeah, that's the way to do it. Get you a nice F-250 that you roll around in. That's for work. And then, the Lambo, you can lease it. And if you're taking clients out in it or using it to go to events or car events to meet other business people and do things. This person says Sprinter van. Yes. G-Wagon. G-Wagon, I think you can still do if it's 100% for business. If it's your wife's G-Wagon, again, back to the wifey, you're not going to be able to use 100% accelerated depreciation on it. I think you're going to get 35,000, and then I think it's up to 20% each year for the next 5 years beyond the first initial 35,000. So this person says G-Wagons are ugly but comfortable. $6,000, bro. Okay, see, so that's what I thought. It used to be 6,000. That person said 6,500. Yeah, I thought it was 6,000. So anyway, software. There's a bunch of other stuff under Section 179. You can also do real estate is another great opportunity, and opportunity zones. You can defer taxes for up to 5 years and use 100% depreciation the first year to write that off. So if you have a big tax bill, R&D credits are another big thing. Anybody doing tax credits or other stuff, selling those, I'm not overly into that, but until the IRS says no, maybe you can get away with some things. The problem is if they come back and you have taxes and late fees and penalties on stuff if you buy those, and it ends up being overturned by the IRS. So just be leery on that type of stuff. R&D credits are real. There is a lot of real ways to mitigate your full tax bill. Okay. And that's again why we help people set up LLCs to manage their digital assets, because then you get a much larger breadth of the tax code to be able to offset your income with that you're not going to get if you are just a single person. And you're going to get the creditor protection. You're going to get the anonymity. You're going to get a bunch of other benefits aside from, what you would get if you were holding the assets in your personal name, holding it through an LLC filed in Wyoming. And again, you don't have to work with us to do that. But if you do want to work with us to do it, and we get everything done for $2,000, including the operating agreement, which normally costs somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500, depending on the attorney in Wyoming, you can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAG LLC. That's 50OFFDAG LLC. This person says, I'm going to buy property rentals to pay my liabilities. Love that, dude. There's a lot of, and then you can use cost seg. on those properties. Even if they're not in opportunity zones, you're still going to get some bonus depreciation you can pull most of the depreciation on properties forward into the first 5 years instead of amortizing it across the normal like 27 and a half that you would normally. We've got Weasel 13. They say, hey Jake, is it possible to borrow against and earn yield from the same bag, or do you have to separate? Thanks for all that you do. You demand. That's the dream. That's what we're working on. In DeFi, absolutely. So you get a liquidity pool token that represents the value of that assets that's been staked or put into the pool. VanEck actually has this with their money market. You can use RLUSD and put it into their money market, and you get an LP token that you can then loop back in. If you did it 4 times, you end up with like 9% interest. Then you got to unwind all that if you want to pull it out of there. I'm hopeful that we are going to be able to do that with the CD type product that we're bringing to market in the near future, where you're able to lock the asset in the account, reflect it with our counterparty, which I think you guys will like. Be earning a guaranteed somewhere between 3 and 5% a year, and then if you wanted to borrow against your CD, you should be able to do that at a fairly low interest rate because the asset is being used to generate returns to cover the majority of the interest that you would have owed. So I don't think you're ever going to have a situation where what you're earning on the asset more than offsets the cost of borrowing against it. You're probably going to have to deal with the same counterparty. You're not going to want multiple counterparties with the same claim to the same asset. But if they are able to borrow into the same counterparty in a tri-party agreement where your assets are locked in escrow, either on chain or in our accounts at Anchorage, yes. Because that's like the HELOC, right? You have a home that you own, or maybe you have a mortgage on. You'd have to do it if you owned it this way. So the person, is renting it from you, giving you cash flow, and then you're able to draw a HELOC against that property. And then that person living in the property that was paying your cash flow services the debt for you. And you're able to take that equity out tax-free and go do something else with it, whether that's an investment or live your lifestyle, whatever you want to do. That's the dream. And that's exactly what we want to be able to create with your XRP. And what I think we're going to have to market here in the very near future. We got Amon. They say, God bless you, Jake. So excited for this ride. Awesome, dude. Glad to have you here tonight and this week. Excited for the ETFs. We talked to Steve from Canary Capital when we were at Swell. We've known him for a while. Great guy, by the way. Love Steve. Anyway, he's extremely confident that they are going to see their ETF go live tomorrow. I've always thought that they're going to have to roll them all at one time. We did get the guidelines from the SEC today on what that's supposed to look like. Maybe it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday evening that we got their standardized process for proposing spot ETFs for immediate approval. And with the Senate voting on, the reformation of the government shutdown and everything that's gone on, it's the longest government shutdown that's ever existed or happened in the past, which is interesting to delay the Clarity Act, in my opinion, giving XRP the only position as an asset that is legally available to be used here in the U.S. For the purposes that I think it's going to be used for. I do have a super chat that my wife sent me in my email that I'm going to jump to here because I feel bad if people pay and I don't answer them. So shout out to Ryan Sweeney. I'm sorry I missed your super chat. Same thing with Cheyenne. I missed her super chat a bunch. If you post them before I get on here for whatever reason, they, I don't know. don't show up for some reason. But we'll get back to Ryan. So he says, I understand how market cap doesn't apply to the price of XRP, but can you explain how if the market cap is larger than all the money in the world, how we can cash out of our investments if there isn't enough money available? I understand your logic, and that is fair logic. But I want to present you with a counter thesis. Okay. And this is how market cap in crypto works. This is not how market cap in stocks works. Okay. I mint 1 billion Jake tokens. I get it listed on Binance. My mom goes on to Binance. There's order book. She buys my token for $1. One token bought for $1 on Binance. There's 1 billion total supply. What's my market cap? $1 billion. Was $1 billion put into my token? Nope. If somebody wanted to sell my token, where would that liquidity come from? Come from other assets. People would be exchanging value, swapping into my token. But that's the whole like counter argument. And this is the same argument that David Schwartz made, by the way. It's a simplification of how this stuff works, but it's a good illustration of how asinine this is for crypto. It doesn't make sense. So even though the market cap would be in the pentillions of dollars for XRP, nobody's ever going to sell all the XRP at one time. In most circumstances, they're not going to sell XRP at all. They're going to use XRP. It's a protocol. And not even all that XRP is available for sale at the same time. There will always be more than enough liquidity for the XRP to be bought and sold. Liquidity it's liquidity begets liquidity. Like the more liquidity in something there is, the more liquidity in pairs there are for the trading of that asset. So all that to say, unless you owned the total supply and the total market cap was more than the total value of all of the assets on Earth, there's no problem, because not even the total supply is available to be sold. And again, this kind of goes back to my points before of total supply, circulating supply, and available supply. Like available supply is the part that matters. And there's only a couple billion XRP that's available supply left on the exchanges. And now, maybe retail's got somewhere between 5 and 8 billion XRP, maybe a bit more than that, maybe up to 10 billion XRP in retail's hands. I mean, there's 13.4 billion on exchanges, right? But some of that is the exchanges XRP. It's not even available for sale or retails. It's on their balance sheet. It just happens to be a publicly available wallet address that they're displaying that they own that XRP on their balance sheet. So anyway, it's a good question. I don't know if I answered it well enough for you. Hopefully what I stated makes sense for you. And I do appreciate the super chats and the support here on the channel. And on that topic, because I always forget to say this, if you wouldn't mind, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this with somebody that you think they would find it valuable, because it does help the algorithm and the channels grow on TikTok, X, YouTube, and Facebook. We'll figure out Instagram at some point for this deal. Henry says, hey, Jake, do you have any advice for Belize citizens living in Canada? Oh, geez. I don't know if you're a Canadian citizen, but Canada is residency tax based. So if you live there, you're going to get taxed in Canada. Canadian taxes are not fun, not good. It's really cold there. Why did you move to Canada from Belize? I would go back to Belize personally. You may have family there, you may have outside circumstances that wouldn't allow you to do that. So if if I were stuck in Canada for whatever reason, I'd get my stuff offshore. We work with Aaron Grinhoss to do that. He can move your stuff to Caymans or Bermuda, and you could snowbird down there. You'd have to spend some time there. You could also set stuff up in Portugal, which is over there in Spain. But it sounds like you probably want to be in South America. Panama is what's up. If y'all don't know about Panama and their tax treaties with the U.S. and the benefits of that jurisdiction, you should go check that out. But yeah, I would get things structured outside of Canada if you could. And then I would also leave Canada because it is residency tax based. Crypto M says, dude, Mastermind Carbon One, hoping the ETFs allow us to gain enough to onboard with DWP as soon as possible. Save us a seat. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man. Well, like I said at the beginning of this, we are tooling up as fast as we can, making sure that our infrastructure and systems can support volume, because we are concerned that things are going to start to move rapidly here in the near future. We're hiring aggressively, and again, moving things into place to make sure that we can accommodate a large volume of clients moving in a rapid way, because I do think that that's probably likely in the near future. We've got L. They say, Jake, any ideas why Decent hasn't added hash to its supported coins? Lots of us likely requested it. You've probably sent them lots of business. I appreciate that. I can reach out to them, but there is a ticket for support on their website for Decent. If you would go there and make a recommendation for hash, if enough people do that, if you really do want it on there, they will do it. We did that with DAG, and they added it in a week or two after the volume of people came through. So if you have a Decent wallet and you want to be able to hold hash on there, please go over to Decent's website and fill out the form for an additional asset and tell them why you want them to add hash. And I'm pretty confident that would move the needle. Anthony D, thank you for the super chat, my man. Appreciate the $20. I didn't see a question, but if you have one later on, I will try to answer it. Let's see here. We've got Swervo. They say, I have enough XRP where LLC makes sense. Don't have the money to set up the LLC just yet. Will I lose money by waiting to join DWP until price appreciation out before? I don't know that you're going to lose money. It's opportunity cost. That's how I would look at it. So you're probably going to be okay. I don't know how much you have. Oh, excuse me. Long day. I don't know how much you have. If you think it's going to be worth more than $30 million, it would behoove you to go ahead and move things into the LLC now. If you think that you can wait, maybe, you'd probably be okay to do it after. I will say this. We are going to be inundated and underwater. We're already treading with the volume of people that we have coming in through the door every single day. We're adding somewhere between 10 and 25 clients a day right now into Digital Wealth Partners. And I think that's because people are anticipating the price to move here. We did lower the minimums down to 50,000 XRP. And I think that that's kind of, helped some people. And I'm glad to. I'm glad to help people out and get their assets into institutional custody and get them all the services and stuff that they're looking for. It's additional bandwidth for us. We will likely keep the minimum. We'll likely raise the minimum, to be candid. Those that are in the mastermind, we will figure something out for that helps those that are not in the mastermind. It's going to be a pretty high minimum. that we move things to at Digital Wealth Partners. We are a multifamily office. So normally a multifamily office's minimum would be around $20 million. Post price appreciation, if we see the types of price appreciation that I think we're going to on XRP, that's likely what we will move our public minimum to. Those that are in the mastermind will get some additional benefit. We have over 10,000 people in the mastermind. So again, that's a lot of people also, but those people will take precedent over others. And if you want to join the mastermind now before we lock it down, because we're going to on the other side of a $10 XRP, all you got to do is go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar, and they get you the first month for $2. So super cheap. Get your foot in the door and know that you're not going to be left behind on the other side of this deal. But we are going to raise minimums publicly when things roll here. This person says XRP is mooning right now. Let's look at the price. Oh, it's not mooning. I don't think you guys understand what mooning means. When XRP is running, you'll know it. This is I mean, it's moved up. What am I looking at? I'm looking at on the 15-minute chart here. In the last 45 minutes, we're up. I mean, it's up, which is nice. It's back to 250, but that's not mooning. When this starts going, like, I do not know how to impart upon you how aggressively this is going to move to the upside. Aggressively move to the upside. So hopefully you guys are ready for that. Again, I have to state this. It's not financial advice. Do what's best for you and your family. Make your own decisions. You never go broke taking profit. But again, Digital Wealth Partners are going to be here on the other side of this, and we are going to be in a position to be able to help a lot of people make sure that they're able to secure these assets and their legacy for their family. So again, back to Swervo's questions here. You don't have to do it today, but the more proactive you are, the better position you're going to be, and the less reactive you're going to be post price appreciation. If you're running around post price appreciation and you're emotional, you're much more likely to make mistakes. Rippled says, any movement on returns with traditional IRA accounts and yields within DWP custody? Dude. Yes. I need to call my COO because we were supposed to hopefully finalize that today. And like, I am waiting on 3 signatures right now from partners. Legal is like the hardest part of this stuff. I don't know about you guys. I'm a good old boy. Okay. Like, I'm from the South. When I shake your hand and look you in the eye and tell you I'm going to do something, like, that's my bond. Okay. I have been burned by other people in business a lot of times. People that said they were going to invest that pull out. And again, life happens, things happen. Partners that, said they were going to come through and do this or that, don't do it. Somebody else we're doing the transaction with, I come through on my side, they don't pull their weight and do what they said they were going to do. So because of that, I have learned my lesson, and I get my attorneys involved. And when I get my attorneys involved, it takes way longer. They want to dot every I and cross every T and make sure that, we're mitigating risk and loss and liability, which I appreciate, because God knows, when you're managing billions of dollars, like, you need to be aware of all those things, and we have to play at a high level. And hopefully once you guys are also managing billions of dollars in the near future, you're also have your attorneys and you're working with them and working through things. So I am moving it along as fast as I possibly can. believe me, like I get on here and have a good time with you guys, and I think my team would tell you that I do the same thing with them. Um, Occasionally, I get a bit aggressive, but it's not unjustified. I normally am like, hey, these are the reasons that I'm feeling rushed, and I'm trying to impart that urgency upon you. And if there's friction there, or you don't feel like you can accomplish this in the time frame that I've asked for it, tell me why. I will listen. Sometimes I'm going to tell you get it done anyway, but I am going to listen and try to understand what the frictions are. And then that also helps me be like, oh, well, then I'll just do this, this, and this. We'll remove those, and then we can go that fast. And that's how I try to support my team. I want to provide them resources and make them capable of operating at the highest level possible. But to that end, there's different strokes for different folks, and some people just need a swift boot in the ass every once in a while. I don't know if you guys have a kid like that. I'm more of a chase the carrot type person. If you say, hey, this is your reward if you get this done, um, I will run. I will figure it out. I will chase it. Other people don't have that reaction, and they need a swift kick in the ass every once in a while. So anyway, kind of back to topic here. We should have the traditional IRA accounts and returns and yield their returns. We'll have a trading algorithm that we're able to overlay on the IRA accounts and be able to generate somewhere between, targeting 8 to 15% a year on the additional compounding of whatever the asset is. So that's in the asset. That's not in dollars. Well, it's in both actually. I think you get returns in cash and in kind because we're going to be layering some algorithms. It's super proprietary. Nobody else has what we have, especially not for XRP. And I think that we're going to take a pretty large piece of the market share for IRAs as soon as we're able to announce that here in the next week or so. Brandon G, he says, hey, Jake, once price appreciates and some of your DWP clients cross the $1 million mark, what's accreditation approval look like? Automatic? Brandon, I love you, my man. Most of our clients are accredited. There are a lot of clients that we have that do meet the accreditation and already participate in the fund. But to your question specifically, yes, you would then qualify as an accredited investor and a qualified client, and be able to participate immediately because of your account balance there at Anchorage. Because of conflicts of interest, we would not write you the accreditation letter. If you were participating in somebody else's product, we could absolutely write it. But because it's our own products that we're providing clients, we prefer that a third party issues that letter, just so that it, like when the SEC comes and audits later on, which they're going to, and we'll be ready for all of it. Witham's our auditor for the accounting stuff, which we have, but the SEC is going to show up at some point. We want to make sure that we have clear delineation. And if there is a conflict of interest, like, if I sign this and get you in here and like you're squeak by and then we're able to make money, it looks a little sketchy. So we use a third party service called Parallel Markets. We will just show your account balance. You show it to them. They write the letter of accreditation. You hand us the letter of accreditation and you're good to go. You can participate in the funds. But hopefully in the near future, we will have lots of products that execute on an SMA model or single managed account model. And we'll be able to trade and do things and lock assets and delegate things from your account directly without having to participate in the funds all the time. Because there's a lot of additional overhead and paperwork and many things that go along with the funds that, ideally the assets, and I want them to stay right there in your account and just, so you can see them in your wallet in your account the whole time. Right now we have to pull them in the hedge fund in order to be able to execute on what we have. But over time, I think that'll change. Justin Kincaid, what's up, dude? He says, looks like we might be on the verge of striking Venezuela. Didn't I hear they have something to do with oil? We are to onboard with Uncle Danny. Would have to wake up. We are to onboard if Uncle Danny would have to wake up. Appreciate you and the tea lady. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here and always being in a good mood. Wake up, Uncle Danny. Yeah, I am anticipating oil. Again, I'm going to continue to beat that drum. I know people are like, oh, it's going down, you know, like, blah, blah, blah. Oil moves every day. It trades every day. And some days it goes down. And some days there's geopolitical conflicts that cause it to skyrocket. I'm betting on the latter happening sooner than later. You don't see Phil Mickelson tweeting about oil. He's a professional golfer. He's not a macroeconomist. So for him to state that, and then for me to see all of the other things, there's 5 ways from Sunday that they could back this thing into a corner to cause it to spike. I don't know which one of those it's going to be. It doesn't need it. All it has to do is spike. And the reverse carry trade unwinds at scale globally. It is a hairpin trigger ready to be pulled. And they will pull it when they want to pull it. I don't know when they want to pull it. If it's tomorrow, they'll pull it tomorrow. If it's next week, they'll pull it next week. But they are going to pull it, and they're going to make sure that everything's in place, ready to catch that when it happens, because it is going to be the scariest unwind that you have ever seen in your life. Markets are going to plummet globally, across the board. It is not going to matter where you have money. UK, Australia, Japan, our stock market, gold, silver, bonds, doesn't matter. All of it is going to burn, crypto included. And that's why they need a way to be able to roll liquidity on XRP and cause a supply shock to be able to drive that to a higher price, to be able to kickstart the economy and settle all of the unrealized losses on the Bitcoin ETFs that they're going to have, and MicroStrategy, mind you, when all this rolls. It's going to be an ugly day when that happens, but it is going to be what we've been waiting on for. If you've been here in XRP for 7 years, 8 years, it's what you've been waiting on the whole time. And when it rolls, it's going to be the most euphoric God candle for XRP that you've ever seen in your life, or will ever see again. There will never be another situation that plays out like this. So, and that is my thesis. Okay, it is the perfect storm that has to happen all at one time for XRP's price to get to the levels that I've been talking about at 3 or 4 digits. So just know that I think it's likely to happen. But, it's not just this thing or that thing or the other. Like Paul Barron was like, well, what if it's just the ETFs? And I'm like, but it's not going to be just the ETFs, man. Like, I don't know how to press upon you that it's going to be all these things at one time. And he was like, well, just forget those other things. What if it's ETFs? And I'm like, I don't know, like 20 to $40 or something is what I think I said. If it's just the ETFs. And I mean, you could see $50 with just the ETFs. If there is a supply shortage and a huge demand, I think that's possible. But 3 or 4 digits is going to require macro global catalysts that have huge ripple effects across global economies, and the need to drive liquidity into XRP to be able to start settling the back into the stock market, which just happened to be what the president of NASDAQ said was going to happen at Swell this year. Sure enough, she said, yeah, DTCC and the back end of the stock market reconciliation of trades is the first place that we're going to implement distributed ledger technology. Who would have known? This lady says, so bricks won't, oh, this is a gentleman. Sorry about that, Scott. He says, so bricks won't be insulated. No, absolutely not. This is going to be a complete repricing of assets and economies globally. You're going to see a huge amount of depreciation occur at scale across markets, across cost of goods, real estate, stock markets, gold, all of it. Everybody's telling you that gold's going to $10,000 a piece. I'm telling you gold's going to $2,000 or $2,100 a piece. If it gets repriced after that, cool. But I see it coming back down substantially and sharply to those levels. So again, just one guy's opinion. I don't mean to fearmonger or any of that. We're going to be fine. They are going to roll into this new financial system, never let a crisis go to waste type situation. And it's just going to be great. We're going to set up for another huge run to the upside over the next decade. I would much rather have a drastic short-term repricing or reduction in value than have a prolonged, recession or depression where things drug out for years to get down to the bottom on things. I would rather it be a super swift, horrible candle to the downside with a V bottom like we had in COVID and then back up to the right. I'm one of those that'll jump in the deep end and get it over with type people. Rip the Band-Aid off is my preferred method. I don't want to drag it out. So I do think that's what's going to happen. And I do think, on the other side of that, we're going to get a lot of changes. They're going to be huge for economic growth and GDP and the adoption of a lot of technologies that'll converge all at one time. And there's going to be job growth and a bunch of wonderful things that take place. So I'm actually, not looking forward to the catalysts themselves, but within a few months of the catalyst dissipating and the implementation of distributed ledger technology and instant settlement and stable coins and a lot of the things that they've been talking about, it's off to the races. And I think we're going to have a really good 2026, 2027 and the rest of Trump's presidency. We got Presto. They say, do you see any benefits to investing in XRPC ETF or growing with the token? How do I want to answer this? I think there could be benefits to both. It depends on what type of person you are and how active or passive you want to be in the investment. So if your money is locked up in a 401k, probably want to do the ETF because that's really going to be the only way you're going to get exposure easily to that asset. Now, there are additional fees. Whoever launches the ETF charges fees. BlackRock, Canary, all of them. That's how they make money. It's a structured product. They've got to pay for custody of the underlying asset for the spot ETF. There's a bunch of compliance and red tape. They've got cost, to the tune of $250,000 to $1 million a year just to maintain their ability to operate that financial product on the market. So, they have to charge fees in order to be able to cover those costs and ideally make some money, right? Like that's the whole point. They're providing additional value to other people and they should be compensated for doing so. And if you're owning the underlying asset yourself, cool. You don't have to pay fees. But now you don't have much recourse and you have to deal with holding and custodying the asset and not losing it and doing whatever you're going to do with it to make returns or yield or partnering with somebody to do it or figuring all that stuff out. They do all that for you if it's an ETF and they just pay you a cash dividend, maybe if they can figure that out for XRP, Solana and ETH and some of the stakeable stuff pay a dividend. So I'm sure they'll probably figure that out with XRP. We've talked to Steve a little bit about it. So it's possible if it's structured the right way. So yeah, it just depends on how radically responsible you want to be for maintaining the asset. Do you want to hold the bearer asset itself and be subject to everything that goes along with that? Or do you want to pay a fee and rely on a counterparty to do that for you? And it's a lot easier to leverage. It's inside your stock portfolio. It's there for the reporting. Your CPA and your accountant are going to know how to deal with any taxes, for profits or losses on that much easier than the underlying asset, because most of them still have no idea about crypto. If you need those people, again, you can reach out to us. You can go to Digital Family Office. Just email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io if you need a CPA, a tax attorney, estate planning, and again, the wealth management we do though over there at Digital Wealth Partners. So those are the kind of differences on the ETF. It's going to trade right at NAV for whatever ratio the ETF is for how many XRP they're holding to however many shares of the XRP ETF are issued. So you're not like getting additional leverage. It's going to cost you more than buying the asset itself. But again, you get those additional assurances that come from the institutional component of it. We got Jan Newburn. They say, "Hi, Jake. Love the mastermind. So worth it." Thank you so much. That's awesome to hear. Blessed and grateful to have over 10,000 people in the mastermind. I'm just absolutely blown away. Again, we will be locking that down on the other side of price appreciation. On the other side of a $10 XRP, done. It will be invite only, and it will be very expensive to participate in the mastermind. So if you want to get in before that happens, again, lock in the prices and get the benefits that exist there, all you got to do is go to beyondbroke.com, use code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2 there in the mastermind. All right, so back over to her question. She says, "I have an existing revocable trust. Can I bring my LLC from Laughlin and Digital Assets under the existing trust?" Yes, you can. You would just want to assign that LLC to the trust, and Laughlin can help you make that assignment. You want to make sure that that's documented and structured the right way so that you're able to avoid probate in the event of your death. Those assets in that LLC would, be inside the trust, which is what my dad did not do. He did not make any assignments of any of his assets to the trust that he tried to set up, and we still had to go through probate. Luckily, me and my brother are pretty amicable, but it did, make his assets public record, which is not so fun. Victor says, "The man, the myth, the legend." Appreciate you, dude. Will all ETFs launch tomorrow or just one? It's a good question. And the answer is I don't know. I'm confident that they need a huge amount of demand all at one time to push the price of XRP to where it needs to be for them to use it. Like, that's the only way this works. Like, everybody's like, flip the switch and utility and all these. None of that works unless there's enough liquidity in the token. Okay. It can't happen. The volume itself can't even start to use the token until there's enough liquidity in it. They will use the ETFs to do that. They will use the exchanges being illiquid to drive demand for XRP to push the price higher also. Both of those things. Those are the two things that are going to drive huge amounts of demand for XRP and the need to settle the back into the stock market and all the other things that I've talked about. Okay. There's a huge amount of demand to buy all of the XRP up off the exchanges. I don't know if you're going to be able to buy XRP later. I think I put out a video about this. I said that I don't know you're going to be able to buy crypto because we've built this infrastructure for people to hold the bearer asset at Anchorage. We're it. There's nobody else doing it the way that we're doing it. We've had to change and negotiate and do a lot of things with Anchorage to get them to work the way that we need them to work to be able to do this for people. Have an FBO account in your name with your own wallet address, segregated, insured, all the fun stuff. Okay. The other banks don't care. They have not built any of this. And the only conclusion that I can come to, because they haven't, is that they didn't think they needed to. They thought all of this stuff is going to end up in structured products anyway. That's how we're going to make money on it. There's no need to spend time building all this other infrastructure and doing all these things to accommodate retail, because they're just going to move all their assets into a structured product and trade it on stocks and do all the other stuff that we want them to do anyway. And so that leads me to believe that the exchanges go away. There will be some assets that you will not be able to buy unless you are an enterprise, an institution, or somebody that needs the asset to be able to use it to settle transactions or participate in an ecosystem or on a network or a protocol to be able to deliver value to whatever market segment you're serving. And that's a crazy thing to say, that you won't be able to buy HBAR. You won't be able to buy XRP. You won't be able to buy XLM or XDC because there will be so much demand from institutions that the exchanges won't have it. And the exchanges themselves might also have so much demand for those assets that they aren't willing to sell them. And there might also be a situation, and this is why I tell you to get your stuff off of exchanges, is that they need the asset in an emergency to be able to save their butts because of a situation that transpires in a liquidity crisis, and they take it from you because they can, because you are a creditor of the exchanges. And if they need your asset in that, emergency, you don't have much recourse. They could take it. So that's why I say get your assets off of exchanges. Anchorage is segregated. It's Anchorage Digital. It's away from their exchange business. These assets are never, theirs. They're always yours. It's an FBO account in your name, segregated, bankruptcy remote, insured, separated. There's no risk. It's like your own institutional cold wallet with Digital Wealth Partners. And you're not going to get that anywhere else. Caleb around? Nope. Uphold, even though I love them? Nope. It's just not a thing. So just know that. Hopefully you got your assets. If you don't have enough to work with us over there on a cold wallet somewhere, we like Decent. If that's okay if you don't like them, I like it because it's a nice, it's got the biometric, it's got 25 seed, the 25th seed word to be able to add additional security. It's got a large breadth of assets that they have on there. You also have, the UI is super easy to use. That's why I like Decent. But Tangent's good, LEPAL, Arculus, the list goes on. There's lots of good stuff out there. Zaman, this person says, for XRP in particular, if you don't have anything else, yeah, Zaman works good. That is a hot wallet, though. Just be aware that's a hot wallet. It's not a cold wallet. This person asked about Robinhood. I would get my stuff off of Robinhood as soon as possible. Again, I'm just some guy on the internet. You don't have to listen to a word that I say. Take it with a grain of salt. Do what you need to do for you and your family. I'm just telling you what could happen if they need the asset and you are a creditor. We've got Hero Kim. They say, can I onboard with DWP without a corporate bank account? Yes, not a problem. I have failed 3 times to include one time with Mercury. Can you touch on suitability with a corporate account via an exchange? I mean, we can send stable coins to the exchange account. You could have a bank account at Uphold and have an Uphold card. We just, again, did the deal with them, the podcast with Nancy. And they have a lot of great things going on over there where you can have direct deposit, you can have a bank account with them, you can have a card that earns XRP cash back, up to 10% cash back in XRP. It's pretty good. So I would recommend that. I would just utilize their exchange. That's going to be a way that you can receive money, spend money on the debit card and credit card, and do a bunch of other stuff. And maybe, just maybe, Digital Family Office might have something in the near future for you to use. Again, if you need that LLC to be able to work with Digital Wealth Partners, and again, sorry about the corporate bank account. I know that this is a friction and we're working on a solution, I can promise you. But if you do need the LLC, you can use the code right here. Liners has put it on the code. Geez, Liners has put it on the post. It is 50 off 50 OFFDAG LLC. And there's a link if you want to go set yourself up and make sure you are prepared for price appreciation with creditor protection anonymity, and the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset your capital gains, short-term, long-term, or income that you use the assets to produce. Michael, how are you, sir? He says, what's up, legend? When I transfer my money from institutional holdings with you guys, can I go to your office and do it there? I'm afraid to do it myself. Um, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are in that situation. Our advisors will help you. Whoever your advisor is will help you transfer it over. You can just book a time with them. If somebody's close to you, I don't want you to have to fly halfway across the country to come see me or somebody, in my office. We have people in New York, we have people in Denver, we have people in Connecticut, we have people in on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in Central and Mountain, Arizona, Washington, all over. So if any one of those areas sounds not too far from you, our team can accommodate and meet you. And it's pretty simple. You scan a QR code, send a small test transaction, make sure the 2 or 3 XRP land. And then as soon as you see them in your Securitize app, if you want to send another small transaction that's a little bit bigger until you feel comfortable sending the whole thing, yeah, we're happy to work with you. This person says, what's the code for the Mastermind? The Mastermind is beyondbroke.com, and you can use the code beyondbroke, just like it sounds. All capitalized, the number 1, like the number 1. So Beyond Broke, 1, MO, like Mary Oscar, or the abbreviation for month, both still capitalized also. That gets you the first month for $2 there in the Mastermind. It's month to month, no contract. People find a lot of value in it. We try to provide a lot of value there for people. There's tons of stuff. On that topic, I do want to touch on this for a second. We've opened up the insurance division of our business. I've done a couple things. So I don't like to tell you what you should do because, again, I'm not licensed, can't tell you what to do. I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing for my son and myself. I've set up a term policy for myself that is convertible. And what that means is I pay, cheaper stuff now, but I get the life insurance, and I'm younger, right? So I'm in my mid 30s. I'm in good health, not overly expensive for me to get a decent amount of life insurance. I pay this term policy. And when there is enough money, when we get some price appreciation, and I want to, use premium financing, which we can also do, then I will fund the policy and be good to go. And then I can use it for infinite banking and all the other fun stuff. So it's a short-term way for the long-term solution to work. If you have a family, if you have beneficiaries, if you have people counting on you, you're almost negligent if you don't have some type of life insurance on yourself to make sure that they're going to be okay if you're not around. This person says, I don't understand term versus whole life. It's a good question. So term is like for the next 10 years, I have life insurance on me. And that's why it's so cheap. And it's a very small monthly payment in comparison to whole life, which earns cash value. Which whole life normally, like, it's a scam. It's really kind of a scam. The only benefit to whole life and some of these products is if you can max fund them and then borrow against them, and which is what the wealthy people do and why they've made them the way that they are. If you're not going to use it as a financial product to be able to get the infinite banking benefit, in most circumstances, a term policy is what's ideal. So, over the next 10 years, and the other benefit here, if you do it now versus later, is if you are in good health and you underwrite the policy now and something happens a year from now, you get cancer, you have some other terminal illness or something else happens, they can use this underwriting that you got the policy with now today. And again, not overly expensive to get this done. So I'm putting that in place. It's a higher level policy. I have to over insure a little bit for some reasons, key man risk and stuff. So I have that in place. So I got a term policy that's convertible to a whole life that I can do later. And then for my son, I got an IUL. So you guys may, Coach JV, awesome. He talks about this stuff. Um, he does a good job out there. This person says policies for estate planning. Another use case. Okay. So he does a good job talking about this stuff. There's a lot of IULs that are scams out there. I'm just going to tell you, if they're trying to convince you to roll your 401k into an IUL, and it's a variable rate IUL, you can lose money. This is not a magic wand tool that's the end all be all like some people want to sell you. All these things that we offer are tools. Okay. And sometimes you use a hammer to hit a nail, and you use a screw gun to screw a screw, and you use a wood chisel to chisel wood. You don't use a wood chisel for non-wood chiseling activities. Okay. Even though my wife and I have many times working on the house that we have. Ideally, you want the right tool for the right job. Okay. And that's all these things are. You want to make sure that you're using the right type of insurance and other things where it's appropriate. So an IUL, this person has asked, is an indexed universal life. It means that the money that you're putting into it gets put into the stock market and other financial products to be able to generate a sustainable return over a longer period of time, and they underwrite the risk to the downside if you have a fixed rate IUL. So what that means is they limit down. So if the market's down that year, you don't lose any money, but it will also cap the upside most of the time. So if the market's up 20% in a year, you might only get 10 or 15% of that. But over extended periods of time, this is a really good way to build cash value in a policy for your children. That's the most applicable way that I think IULs can be used. My boy's, not quite 10 yet. And, over the next 10, 15 years, by the time he's 25, I would like to have $1 million policy for him that he can actually borrow against. So he doesn't have to come ask dad for money. And I want him to have access to credit. I want his credit to be good. So, these are little things that I'm doing for him to be able to set him up for success. You hear, Trump talk about his dad gave him a small $1 million loan to get started. And then people, just excuse my French, but talk shit about that. If you could give your child a small $1 million loan to get started, you don't think you would do that? You absolutely would. Okay. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to put him in a position by the time he's 25 years old. We fund this policy, I pay a little bit into it every month, and it grows at 6%. And by the time he's 25 years old, I never have to pay into it again. It continues to grow for him over his lifetime at that, 6%, 10% rate, whatever they're going to get in the products that they have it in. And he's got a cash value that he can borrow against the death benefit on. So those are the two things. The other thing that I do want to mention here for bigger policies is the estate planning use case, right? So if you do want to structure things the right way, oftentimes you do want to pair life insurance with your estate planning. And again, if you want to work with our team, they're able to help you work through all that. This person says, how much does a trust cost? That's a loaded question. There's 80 something different types of trusts. It can be, for a living trust, it could be little as a couple grand, all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on, I know a guy that does a charitable remainder trust that's $125,000. Very dependent on what you're trying to get, my man. So, most of the time for the stuff that we work on clients with, it's somewhere between 15 and 30 for most of the types of trust that we structure, aside from, just a living trust in their state. So, the other thing I wanted to mention, if you do want, to work with us on the insurance stuff, again, there's other people out there that do it. I think Coach JV is a sharp guy. Not trying to take anything away from them, but if you do want to keep it all in house, you want to work with us on stuff, you can go to Xure Legacy. So XURE legacy.com. And our advisors there are happy to book a consult with you and talk you through, how to best protect your family, set up an insurance policy that's going to give you the best benefits over the long term. Again, I'm setting up a term policy for myself. I have that's a convertible policy into, a cash value policy later on that I can use for infinite banking. And then I did the IUL for my boy, to make sure that he's got just options. I want him to have a leg up in the world. So if those two things sound cool to you, if you want to make sure that you're getting the underwriting done now before later on, and you might have some health problems, you never know what's going to happen. I would highly recommend, getting that done sooner than later. And again, not overly expensive, especially if you have loved ones. So again, that website is Xure Legacy, XURE legacy.com. This person says, Jake sold me a discount XRP at Swell. Wasn't me. Wasn't this Jake. Josh, my man, he says, Jake, onboarding soon. Hesitate previously, as it's been a different jurisdiction. How can you give myself and the viewers confidence from a legal perspective, a smooth transition and safe XRP? You can go look us up. So you can go check out our CRD number if you want to go to FINRA's website. So FINRA and the SEC are our regulator here in the US. We are registered with them to be able to provide financial advice and custody and all the stuff that we do. So you can go check that out. You can see all the advisors that are registered with our firm. We are different than other firms in that we actually employ our advisors. It's something that's very unique to us compared to other wealth managers. Most wealth managers 1099 their advisors and just provide back office, but they have to go source all their clients because people are beating down the door to work with us, which is a wonderful problem to have. Again, super blessed and grateful for all of our clients willing to work with us. We employ our advisors and we hand them books of business. Very unique. Nothing else out there like that in the market at all. But as far as Australia is probably the most stringent financial jurisdiction in the world. We're registered in New York, and all the other states required to be able to operate with anybody here in the US. Again, we've tried to do this at the highest standard possible. Nobody else went the correct way. They are all doing like crypto coaching or, stuff on the side, and still like halfway providing financial advice. We, have registered investment advisors that have their 65, 63, 7, 6, 24, lots of different licenses to be able to actually do this the right way and registered with the SEC and the IR and FINRA. And you have full recourse against us. We're onshore. We're not offshore anywhere. We didn't even set up an offshore trust or do anything like that, which, actually may end up causing us some problems working with international people. But yeah, would love to work with you to be able to provide, institutional grade custody. The returns get a little weird for international people. There's a withholding tax. US does that. So we're trying to work on some other options there, but we would love to work with you. Again, I appreciate the hesitation. There are tons of scams out in the space. We're trying to do this the right way. And I think people have seen that. And that's why we have such traction in the market. And there's still people that are very skeptical, and for good reason. Like I completely get that. I've been here for 5 years. I've seen FTX and Voyager and Celsius and Three Arrows. And I've heard about Mt. Gox and everything else that's happened over the years. So for people to be hesitant makes a lot of sense to me. You want to talk to somebody, ideally, meet them, shake their hand, look them in the eye type thing, touch it, feel it, make sure it's real. I get that. That's why we throw more real life events than anybody else through the Mastermind and for our corporation. I bring all my team, to a lot of these events so that people can meet them and see that this is a real thing. We have a real office here in Dallas where we office out of, and people come meet us there. We had a few people just show up and be like, is this real? I'm not encouraging people to do that, by the way. We do have security. It's locked down pretty good, but we are there. So anyway, I don't know if I'm convincing you or not. I'm not really trying to. We're going to be here whenever you're ready to work with us. And I can just say that I do appreciate the skepticism and the hesitancy from some people because, again, you're right to feel that way with all the things that have gone on in this asset class and with other people. Soldier, he says, Jake, I got a song up for the veterans webinar. Just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to working with you after price appreciation. Absolutely, my dude. Excited about that. So we do have a webinar on the 20th of this month. If you guys haven't checked that out, I would highly encourage you to do so. If you are a first responder or a veteran, we would love to have you at that webinar. And you can register through the Luma invite. I know we have it in the Discord, and I think we've put it out on other social channels as well. This person is 7-0. With Canary's ETF going live tomorrow morning, do you think BlackRock puts their hat in the ring just as Canary goes live at the same time? Or do you think we'll have the ETFs roll over a period of time? I'm just going to point to 2 years ago to the day that they filed that trust there in Delaware. So it sure would be interesting if they just happen to show up tomorrow alongside Canary Capital when that went live. And why not? We'll just do all the ETFs tomorrow. If BlackRock gets in, why wouldn't the rest of them get in? You know what I mean? Can't show favoritism. So, again, I think we're in for a really fun ride toward the end of this year. I am not going to make it through all the super chats. We're already an hour and a half in, and time got away from me tonight, and I've rambled on more than I should have. So I apologize if I don't get to your super chat. If I don't get to your super chat, please message me on social media on one of the forums, and my wife, my wonderful, wonderful wife, will get it to me, and I will read it next Monday when we are here back for the live. We got Chris. He says, once fully adopted, is there a situation where politics can get involved and reverse all of XRP's momentum after price appreciation? Depends on, it's a good question. And it depends on who is the authority that implements it. I can tell you who I think is going to be the authority that implements it. And it is non-jurisdictional. It only takes one announcement from the BIS that this is their preferred third-party vendor or a tier 1 asset. Done. They make the decisions for all of the banks globally. And if they decide this is the one, and it's not Solana, and it's not Bitcoin, and it's not whatever else, and they say XRP is it, it's done. There's no politicking. There's no flopping it around, changing things. The IMF, the BIS, the UN, all of them will pile in on XRP, and every government will then pile in on XRP on top of that for their reserves. And now you're talking about like crazy demand. Been trying to tell you guys. So no, as long as it's the BIS, is the one that designates things, there's not going to be any politicking or any way to reverse any of this stuff. It is just going to be, this is it, and you guys are using it. The stock says, if someone has been accumulating XRP for the past 12 months and has over 6,000 XRP, what would you recommend the next steps do during price appreciation phase? How was your stagger withdrawal process for taking profits? That's what I think the most successful people have done. If you are going to take profits over time, is to stagger those out. Blockchain Backer does some of that. He always leaves a forever bag of about 35% of whatever he bought. So for you, that's somewhere around like 2,300. Is that right? Something like that. 2,400. XRP would be 30% of that. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, it'd be around two. It'd be around 2,000 because that'd be 33% of 6,000. So anyway, that'd be your forever bag, and then the rest of it you might step up in tranches over time to take profits. If you have, well, and this is gonna. I don't want to sound that way. How do I want to say this? XRP is a very valuable asset. If it ends up, when it ends up being designated tier one asset by the BIS and is part of the global financial system in perpetuity for the next 1,000 years, why would you sell it? Especially if there's ways to generate returns and borrow against it and do all the fun stuff that we've created at Digital Wealth Partners, in addition to what Evernorth is working on for DeFi. Like, you see all this stuff coming. It's like right on the precipice of here, breaking through here into 26, and you're going to liquidate it at the finish line. And look, you never go broke taking profits. Everybody's in a different position. You should do what's best for you and your family. I don't know how to impress upon people what this is. And I sound crazy. I know. Okay. I don't think I even fully comprehend what this is going to end up being, if that gives you any idea of how big this actually is. If it is the global liquidity in perpetuity for the rest of my lifetime and probably 3 to 5 generations from now, you don't sell this. Like, you sell other stuff, you don't sell XRP. And again, kind of going back to the beginning of this conversation, we talked about the wealthy. The wealthy don't sell assets. They leverage them, they use them for cash flow. And they may even incentivize you to sell it. If they make it tax-free, everybody and their mom is going to be selling XRP. That's what they want you to do. The cost in the long term of doing that, like, imagine the people that sold their Bitcoin at $100. How salty are they right now? Like, if they're like, oh man, if I just held on to that, I'd be, but they're not, because they sold it. And could they buy it back? Maybe. It's at a way higher price. Same thing for XRP. I do not think it's going to be available for people to just buy like it is today. So if you don't have at least, I'm not even going to say any numbers, because anything I say, people are going to do what they're going to do. Whatever is a lot for you, try to hold on to the majority of that. If you need to take profits on some of it to shore things up in your life, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I talked about this in the mastermind the other day. I'm hopeful that people start to look at this as you are the steward of this for your family. You are the fiduciary of this asset for your family. It is not your money. If you look at it that way, you're going to make really good decisions for your legacy. If you look at it like, this is my money, you probably end up like a broke lottery winner in 3 to 5 years. You're going to have a really fun 3 to 5 years. I'm not discounting that. But if you really do want to set your family up for success for multiple generations because of this play that you've made, really think that through before you start liquidating it. Beast Mode says, hey, Jake, scenario, you have 2,000 XRP and price appreciation hits. What's your first move? I do nothing. I just wouldn't change anything. I would just keep living my life. Do you not get the LLC per price appreciation and it's not enough for price appreciation DWP? What would you do? Not financial advice. I guess it depends on the price it goes to. If it's anything north of $50,000 to $80,000, I'd spend the money on the LLC. I get that done. If it's north of $500,000, well, north of a couple $1,000,000, which is, it'd be $1,000 per XRP for it to be north of a couple million. I'd get over in institutional custody at that point. I'd set up some type of trust to protect it outside of the creditor protection I get for the LLC. And I'd try to put it to work somehow to, supplement my lifestyle, but that's not enough to retire on. At $10,000 per XRP, it'd be $20 million at that point. Now we're talking. Now you're making 5% a year, making $1 million a year in passive income. Now you can quit your job. Now you can retire. Now you have enough supplemental income to be able to go and travel and do and live your life and decide what you want to do with your life. $2 million at $1,000 a piece. You have, a nest egg. You can keep working. Depends on your age. There's some other things there, right? But I would get it in an LLC. I would set up a living trust or another type of trust to protect it over the long term. I'd probably do like a dynasty trust or an asset protection trust at that point, just to get it in there before it continues to appreciate. Spend the money on that because you have the money to do it. But my day-to-day wouldn't change at all. I would just continue living my life the way that I was. And again, I think there's going to be a ton of people that don't take that advice for whatever reason. And those are the people I'm really concerned about. The people that have somewhere between like 5 and 10,000 XRP that sell a big chunk of it and have a lot of taxes, and then they stop working their job and they think that they're just going to live off of that. And then it takes them a little while to start generating income off of it. And they go buy a new house and a new car and they pay for their parents' stuff. And then they're taking their friends on vacations. And before you know it, they got a huge tax bill and no money left to pay it. And they file bankruptcy within 3 years. That is my nightmare. That's what keeps me up at night, thinking about people doing that. And it's going to happen. I can't stop it. I can do my best to come on here and talk about these things and put professionals in place and structure stuff and talk to you guys and hope that you're starting to educate yourself and, figure out how not to do that. But there's still going to be tens of thousands of people. And that's why they don't care. Like, I know people are like, they wouldn't let that many people get wealthy. They know that they're, excuse my French, but they're going to fuck it up. I'm hoping that they don't. I'm hoping that me being here and talking about this stuff on a regular basis and showing you guys a lot of the things that the wealthy do in order to mitigate these risks and keep and preserve their wealth over the long term and continue to grow it for their family really sink in. And you don't make those mistakes that I just ran through, like that whole scenario that's my nightmare on how people go bankrupt in 3 years after they make all this money on XRP. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. We got a couple more super chats here, and then we're going to wrap it up tonight. Again, I'm sorry if I didn't get all, I know I didn't get to all the super chats tonight. I've been, a little more rolling through a bunch of stuff. I wasn't moving as quickly as I should have been. So if I didn't get your super chat, you can join the Mastermind. We'd love to have you in there. You can DM me over there. I am a little late getting back to people in the Mastermind right now. I just own that. I'm sorry. I was sick Sunday. I've been traveling the last 3 weeks. And I wasn't able to get to everything. And I'm off running this week, and I'm going to try to set aside some time Thursday and Friday this week, outside of my back-to-back schedules to, knock out some of those responses. So again, if you've been sitting there and you're like, Jake didn't DM me back, what the heck, my man? I know, and I am sorry. But I will say this, if you didn't get your super chat answered, you can message us on other socials, or you can go into the Mastermind, go to beyondbroke.com, use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar. It's $2. You get social or carbon 1, and then you can DM me. And I won't DM you. I should probably say that. When you join the Mastermind, if you get a DM from me, it is a scam. It's a scam. Don't answer it. I will never message you. If you want to message me, Awesome. I will never message you on any platform. It's not me. It's a scam. No Telegram, no link, like no WhatsApp, no Signal. I'm not on any of those. If it's somebody's messaging you that looks like me, it's a scam. And again, to join the mastermind, just go to beyondbroke.com, use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar, get you everything for $2 to start. All right, we got Jose. He says, "Hey Jake, from New York City, can I use my LLC address to open an Uphold account since New York Uphold doesn't allow me to open it?" Yes. They're still going to ask for your ID, my man. That's the problem. You might be able to get away with it at Kraken, but Uphold's going to ask for your ID, and they won't open the account if it's in New York, even if you have the LLC, because they do a look through to the beneficiary. Hyper Performance says, "Hey Jake, can you talk about the court case that Levi posted? Just to clear the air." I don't know what he posted. I don't know if it's something to do with Ripple or what you're posting about. So sorry. If I knew which one, I would be happy to. We've got this gentleman again. He says, "Wouldn't sell at all, just enough to pay off mortgage and debt." There you go. That's the way I would do it. We've got Copaconk says, "Hey Jake, traps are popping. Any advice over here? Any plan to expand when we finally catch up with regs in the UK?" UK is rough. We have partners there in Portugal and Cyprus. Happy to work with them. Luxembourg and Switzerland also. A couple jurisdictions. Dubai. We've seen a lot of people move from the UK to Dubai. We want to be in tax-friendly jurisdictions. The UK is just, unfortunately, not one of those places. We've got Unforgettable. They say, "I want to escrow 1/3 of my XRP for 3 years. Should I get a dedicated cold wallet seed phrase just for my XRP? Would my escrow prevent me from working with you and creating an LLC in the future?" No, you can absolutely create an LLC at any time and move that wallet address in there. The way that I would do it, if you were going to make it quantum proof, because this is a risk, like it's starting to become a significant risk. 2 years ago, it really wasn't, but we're pretty close to quantum computing. I mean, there's a possibility that we're going to see the blockchain for Bitcoin get hacked by a quantum computer in the not too distant future, which would decimate Bitcoin. But it's SHA-256 is the encryption. There are supercomputers that can hack that today, and a quantum computer could eat right through that. So concerning to me, and I think cold wallets are going to be concerning. You want to send to a cold wallet and not ever send out of it, because if you expose both of the keys, that's when a quantum computer could hack it. So what I would do, if you were going to set up a cold wallet to receive the escrow, I would send enough XRP to seed the wallet and open the account to the new address, whatever device that's going to be on. And then I would use the XRP toolkit to escrow that XRP that you want to escrow for whatever period of time. And you want to send it to that wallet, and you want to lock it up for whatever period of time. And that escrow will appear on chain. You will have to go unlock that escrow at the time of its release, and it will be released to that other wallet at that point. I'm going to try to grab one more super chat before we wrap it up tonight. I'm going to run all the way to the bottom here, and then we'll sign off for the evening. Raphael says, "Hey Jake, I set up my LLC and bank account with Mercury, paid my 1K onboarding fee. Is the trust a requirement to work with DWP?" Nope. You can do the trust later, my man. Let me see if I can find one that's a bit more philosophical or macro oriented. I am watching the reverse carry trade still waiting on oil. Still waiting on the rest of everything to play out in the domino theory, like I've been talking about for a long time. So if you guys haven't seen the domino theory, if you're new to the channel, I would encourage you to go check that out. We have 3 videos on it. The last video I made talks about the reverse carry trade and everything else. I don't think I may have mentioned oil in that one, and I think I said the Strait of Gibraltar, but it would be more like the Strait of Hormuz that would actually end up being blocked if Iran and Israel continue the conflict there. And I do think that that could end up being the ultimate deal. Here's a couple more that Legacy sent me, so I'm going to grab these before we wrap it up tonight. We got Kobe. Thank you for the super chat. He says, first of all, thanks for everything that you and Max and all the mods do in the community. Truly appreciate you guys. Any tinfoil hat theories on the model Evergreen ship that was displayed at Swell this year? Yeah, we'll run it down. Why not? I think Tether has something on their balance sheet that is a problem that's going to be affected by the reverse carry trade. And I think it has to do with Evergreen. I think that company and their corporate debt, they've issued corporate bonds or something that Tether holds. That company's going to go under and have problems when the reverse carry trade unwinds. And you're going to see Tether depeg and that ship start to sink. If I was going to wear my tinfoil hat and put things together, that's my best assumption. We'll have to see how that actually ends up playing out, but that's my guess is how that all plays together. We got Brent. Thank you for the super chat. Mr. Sum, he says, good evening. It was a pleasure to meet you and Max in Florida. My wife and I enjoyed ourselves. Very happy to be part of the mastermind. Really appreciate what you and Max are building. Most don't understand how truly important it is. Thank you for that. Sometimes I don't think I even know how important it is. Sometimes I have conversations with interesting people, and they reiterate to me how important it is. And so, I have this vision of what I think is best for people over the long term, not necessarily for them individually, but like the services and the offerings and products that we can bring that best serve the community. And we're going to continue to push that forward. So thank you for the kind words and working with us. We got Lucas Crenshaw. He says, which would you rather hold out of the 3 portfolios? 125K, 1 Bitcoin, and 150K HBAR, and 100K XLM, or 170. He's got this. This is a financial question. I'll tell you. 170K XRP, 150K HBAR, and 100K XLM, or just 200K XRP. Whichever one is worth the total, the most dollar value today. And then I would sell everything and roll everything into XRP. So I don't know which one of those is worth the most money. Or maybe it is the 200K XRP. I don't know. But I only own XRP. I got like $2,000 in hash. Every additional extra money that I have goes to more XRP. I just, play it straight with you guys, tell you where I'm at. If you want to call me a maxi, cool. I'm here for ROI. I'm here for tier 1 asset designated by the BIS. I'm here for the best leverage asset. I'm here for the highest income asset. I do not think there will be anything that outdoes XRP in returns and leverage and cash flow and like just whole benefit for the next 1,000 years. I like, for me to even say that is, again, sound crazy. There are people that are way older and wiser than me that would be like, There's going to be all kinds of stuff that outperforms that, and this, that, and the other. Again, it's hard for me to impress upon you what this actually is. So if you're here and you're here now, you are guided. That's all I have to say. Neil says, Jake, good evening. If we get ETF rollout this week, do you think there will be any pullback after the price bump? Zach says we could see 50% pullback. I don't agree. Also, Cashew Nate put out a great video about XRP's global connections. And I think that was from last week because I already answered that one. So I'm going to go. All right. I think I got all these. And just on that, though, could there be a pullback? Could it overshoot? Possible. They need it to be at least $100 to start using it. I think we have a pit stop at 50 to $100, somewhere in there. But I think in the not too distant future, it just continues up and to the right. I know there's going to be a ton of people telling you to sell, get out, it's coming down, it's going to pull back 90%, and we're going to buy back. Look how people make their money. Look at that before you make decisions when they tell you something. And you can look at me the same way, okay? We make our money by people holding their XRP over the long term because we charge AUM fees. I'm not going to BS you guys. Like, I'm going to tell you like it is. I don't make money off YouTube. This isn't I don't have a media business. I get on here and shoot you guys straight. I want to align my incentives with what is the best interest for other people. We make nothing on trading fees. Nothing. We charge 20 basis points. So if you sell it, you buy it, we don't make any money. We only make money if your book and the wealth that you have with us continues to grow over time. That's how we make more money. And hopefully that's in alignment with your values and what you want to create too. You want to make more money. You want your book, your portfolio to continue to grow in value over time. Okay. So that's why I've structured it the way that I have. And we don't take any, there's no upside for us on any fees on buying, selling, trading. We're the only people that operate that way. Because I'm the only person that set it up this way. Everybody else makes money off of you selling or buying crypto. And they are well compensated. And not to call out Caleb and Brown, but Caleb and Brown charges 3 to 3.5% every time you buy and sell something over there, and they pay really good commissions to people. So if somebody's telling you to sell and buy back and do these things, look who they've aligned themselves with. And just know that. I'm not saying they're wrong or right. Okay. I'm not saying I'm wrong or right. I think I'm right. I think we've designed this in the best interest of the clients for them to grow their portfolio over the long term and us to be a long-term partner. I don't like zero-sum games. I don't like stuff where one person wins and one person loses. I want both people to win. And we always try to structure it where the other person has to win for us to win. That's one of my core values in our companies. I always want people to feel like they're getting more value than whatever they're paying. So, anyway, I get off my soapbox. I don't think we're coming back, but I could be wrong. You know, I do have a crystal ball, but it doesn't tell me the future. Hal was nice enough. Hal Davis, shout out to him from the Mastermind. He was nice enough to get that for me. I really wish you guys all the best in the world. The XRP family has been nothing but wonderful to me. And nothing that we have built matters if you guys don't want to work with us and use us. We have so many wonderful clients that just really want to set themselves and their family up for success. But anything in addition to that, they just want to give. They want to help their community. They want to help causes. They want to create charities and philanthropic organizations to bless the world with other things. And that's the commonality across all of our clients. Almost all of our clients want to be that way. And so I just feel so completely blessed to be in a position to be the conduit and help those people execute on those dreams and that vision. And I'm really excited for where we are at this moment in time. I think we'll reflect back on this like, the good old days type thing. But this is my contribution to the community. I want to be able to put things together in a way where you have the right resources to be successful for you and your family over the long term, and you have aligned incentives in doing that. So hopefully that resonates with you. If it does, we'd love to work with you. You can check out the Mastermind, go to beyondbroke.com, use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then the MO like Mary Oscar. If you need the LLC, again, you don't have to work with us. I encourage you to work with an attorney and not just do it through LegalZoom, because you want it done the right way. If you got at least $50,000 to $80,000 in total portfolio value, I think that's when it starts to make sense. That's when we see most people start to set up an LLC. You can work with us. It's $2,000 end to end. If you use the code 50OFF50 OFFDHE LLC at the website, not Web3. Web3 is a scam. Go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, like Igloo Oscar. And that's where we can help you set up the LLC and do the other more complex estate planning for you. We can also get you other resources if you need other professionals. Just email us or the contact us form there. We can get you CPAs, tax attorneys, all the stuff that you need. And then last but not least, if you do want to protect your assets, add beneficiaries to your account, get institutional custody, just like BlackRock for your assets at Anchorage, you can work with Digital Wealth Partners. Go to digitalwealthpartners.net and use the code. Just kidding. No code for Digital Wealth Partners. It's the contact us page. Just fill out your information there. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a wonderful night. Thank you so much for taking time out on your Wednesday to hang out with me and ask such fantastic questions. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your super chat. Please join the Mastermind and DM me your super chat, or just send it to another social. And my wonderful wife and our team will get it over to me, and I'll read it for you next Monday. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, blessed and grateful for you guys. I hope you'll have a wonderful week, and we'll see you guys next Monday on the next one.